But for some reason, we're only just learning about it now. Why is that? Apparently because the FBI and the DOJ deliberately hid that information from Congress. Of course, Congress has authority over the FBI. It's not the other way around, as much as the FBI would like to believe that. So this deception would be gross misconduct at minimum. But of course, gross misconduct would be nothing new in the FBI of Jim Comey. Dan Bongino was a former Secret Service agent and NYPD officer, and he joins us tonight. Dan, this is one of those stories that's so shocking, if true, that A, you don't want to believe it's true, that our government would, the Obama administration would have done something like that. But B, you have to press carefully on the details. What do we know about this?
Yeah, you're right, Tucker. For the sake of the constitutional republic, you pray this story isn't true. There's no partisan advantage. This is the very idea of having big R God-given rights has been shredded if, in fact, they can't produce hard evidence of any crime yet, and yet a human intelligence asset may have been inserted in your political rival's campaign. I mean, how this isn't front page news on every newspaper across the globe is stunning. But Tucker, that's not it, though. Keep in mind, just a couple weeks ago, Devin Nunes on this network in an interview with Maria Bartiromo had another bombshell, that there was no official foreign intelligence through official channels passed into the United States. That was a huge bombshell because notice what he didn't say. He didn't say it didn't pass through unofficial channels. So we know two things. Potentially that information was laundered through the State Department and potentially the U.S. Senate. And
yes,
we know there was potentially a human asset in the Trump campaign. Unbelievable.
Is there any precedence for this? Has this ever happened before? Has it ever been alleged before in a presidential campaign?
Not in the United States. I'm sure it's happened in some spy novels and in some third world countries where this may be common. But Tucker, this is a story so unbelievable on its face that I've said to people, it's like the sickest spy novel I've ever read, except it actually happened. If you were to give this to a book agent and tell them it was a story about the United States government, they very well might laugh at you and say, this is so absurd, this could never happen. But Tucker, I have my suspicions about who this asset is, as do many others, by the way. This is going to be explosive, though, when this name comes out, because the list of suspects is very short. And there are some very suspicious people who are connected to people within our intelligence community now. But this is the key point, Tucker. Also connected to political operators working for Democrats while connected to foreign intelligence assets as well. This is really serious stuff. This isn't a joke. And like you said before, I really wish none of this was true, but it appears sadly that it is.
Well, I mean, it would be a crime to begin with. Do you think it's true? Is there evidence that the FBI was receiving information from within the Trump campaign during the campaign?
Yes, and they're not only that. I believe there's more than one source for the FBI. Now, whether there was more than one source that was paid may be an entirely different story. I believe that based on reporting, Tucker, that's already out there. So, I know a lot of people out there love the conspiracy theory label when information makes them uncomfortable. I'm only telling you things that are already out there in the public domain. There are a number of names out there already of people who, by the way, are connected to the Obama team. One person who's being represented by Obama's former White House lawyer, Tucker, was present at a meeting Bob Mueller's investigating. A meeting right now with Russians that they're claiming has to do with Trump, but the meeting was with people who are actually connected to the Clintons. One of the guys at the meeting is literally being represented by Obama's former White House lawyer, who, by the way, worked with Andy Weissman, who's working with Bob Mueller on the special counsel when they were on the Enron prosecution. This is a big, contaminated witch's brew of people who are all connected to each other.
And in some ways not surprising, because they always accuse you of what they're doing, a la Eric Schneiderman. I mean, it's a very... Thank you, Dan. It was great to see you tonight. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir. You got it.
Well, the world's creepiest porn lawyer has gotten very famous recently by attacking Donald Trump's personal attorney, Michael Cohen. That's probably been good for his business. On the downside, all of this has invited heightened scrutiny of his own past business ventures. Trace Gallagher has more on that. Hey, Trace.
Hi, Tucker. When Tully's Coffee went bankrupt 5 years ago, Michael Avenatti's investment firm bought the company at auction for just over $9 million. Since then, the Seattle Times says Avenatti's company has been named in more than 50 state and federal complaints, including commercial lawsuits and warrants for unpaid taxes. Washington state lawyer David Nold says Avenatti carried out an illegal pump and dump scheme where he ran the Tully's coffee shops, withheld state and federal taxes from his employees, but then didn't pay his state and federal taxes. Avenatti responds by denying the claims and calling David Nold a, quote, unethical hack of a lawyer, despite the fact that the Washington State Bar Association says Nold has no record of ethical or other violations. But Michael Avenatti also claims Tully's Coffee has long been under new ownership, and yet in court testimony last year, Avenatti reportedly listed himself as the chairman and principal of Tully's. And now we know Avenatti hasn't just faced business tax liens. We found records dating back 7 years of personal tax liens, both state and federal, for $1.5 million, including a $300,000 federal tax lien from just 3 months ago. Tucker.
Big lien. Trace, thanks. Quick programming note. Last night, we mentioned the creepy porn lawyer you just